I am love, I am health, I am peace. I deserve to be loved, I deserve to be healthy. I forgive myself for all the mistakes that I have made. I forgive all the people for whom I felt anger. I accept them even though they cannot be as I want. I release the grudge and I free myself from resentment forever. Today's going to be a little bit of a different video. I know that my channel focuses more on growing food and being self-sufficient, but I want to pivot things in a different direction. I've done a few videos like this before. This is going to be a documentary style, and in the same lifestyle that I encompass with everything that I do, there are a lot of behind the scenes medicinal practices that I research, look into, participate in, and document. And of course, you know, I grow my own food. That stems from researching nutrients and where our food comes from, etc. But particularly today, I want to speak to my experience with Bufo. If you guys aren't familiar, Bufo is a medicine in which you may have heard Joe Rogan or Mike Tyson talking about their 5-MeO experiences, which essentially, if you take Bufo, which is a toad, formerly known as a Colorado River toad, a few other names, but basically as a defense mechanism, this toad secretes a toxin out of its glands, and if you smoke it, the toxins are killed in the fire, and what you're left with is mostly 5-MeO DMT, which is dimethyltryptamine. Your body naturally makes it anyway. This is where like Wim Hof method and stuff like that and certain meditation practices come into play. It makes your body produce a little more. And there are other substances out there that do a similar thing. Basically what you're left with if you smoke this is the dimethyltryptamine, specifically 5-MeO, which is different from NN-DMT, and a little bufotenine, which is naturally found in the toxins of numerous toads, including cane toads as well, which is probably where you've heard stories out of Australia where they're invasive and people have been caught licking them. That's kind of a different thing here. But in the case of this experience with Bufo, I practiced with my friend Stephanie. She's a shaman, beautiful work, accompanied by a few others, and I highly recommend, if you engage in any practice, that it's in a very safe space facilitated by professionals who know what they're doing, because I got a little cocky myself. I'm going to go into my experience here, but this is my second time doing it, but I kind of discredit my first time. For whatever reason, it was not nearly as intense, and you know, I didn't even document that. I know I've done a combo documentary on this channel. Yeah, the reason I didn't document it was A, I didn't feel the need to, and B, it wasn't nearly as life-altering as the experience I had just yesterday. I also want to preface this by saying that do your own research, and this is not a video trying to romanticize this practice or glamorize it in any way. You're dealing with something really powerful, the most powerful psychedelic on Earth as far as we know, that's not synthesized. So I had no intention of engaging in this. This was me documenting for a friend, and I said, yeah, give me back later or something down the road if I feel called to it. I can say that this was up north of me, about an hour drive. I was going off 3 hours of sleep the night prior, doing another video project. I got adequate sleep without eating a whole lot, coincidentally kind of fasted anyway. And needless to say, when I was there, you know, I showed up on time, 10 in the morning. I was engaged to make the art, document the process. Basically, she was having a ceremony with a number of participants, and I was there to document, which, you know, I love making art. You guys see my channel. Although my videos aren't that comprehensive as far as art goes, I just love making content and documentary style collaborations and stuff of that nature. So that's pretty much the backstory. So needless to say, I was a little out of my head that day, although I was focused on the work itself. As the day went by, I think like it's a pretty hot day. We're in late September here in Houston, well, not Houston, Texas. We were in Conroe specifically, but it's a pretty hot day. Sun was hitting us pretty good, and I was probably a little dehydrated and a little woozy. My head was there in the space, and at some point I was like, yeah, I'll definitely participate today. And I kind of bumped myself up knowing I was on a time schedule, and I wanted to make sure I had a clear head by the time I was making my hour drive home. On the previous experience, a little backstory with me, I considered myself a bit of a psychonaut, which, experimenting with different things, but not in excess, just curiosity and trying different things. I actually tried a lot of NMDMT, and that's a lot different. It has much more powerful visuals, but emotionally it's not quite the same. And the ego death is, I know that word gets thrown around, hippy dippy type stuff, and everyone tries to actually be egotistical about using it, but essentially what it is dissolving what makes you, your attachment to who you are. And we all, even me as a creator, I'm El Jardín Perdido, like that is my persona, that is my brand, that is everything. And it even goes past that as far as, I'm a father, and basically everything of that nature that makes you who you are and a human being will almost 100% be dissolved if you do DMT. So yeah, I considered myself a psychonaut, and I'm only saying this after the fact because I had no idea until this experience, because it was insanely profound. So I did my share, I microdosed mushrooms, etc. And even when I did Bufo the first time, it was pretty mild, and I actually had a lot of control, and I bragged to other people participating that I could have 1 foot in and 1 foot out, tap into that realm, but also just be here coherent in reality. Kind of bragged about that, but looking back, that's actually a huge barricade that needed to be broken down, which, just years of, everyone has their baggage, but I can say I've had some trauma, and over the years I've learned to put up a wall that I couldn't even acknowledge to break down. And I think that first experience was maybe a stepping stone. And since then, it'd been a year or so since I've even touched any kind of psychedelic, or as my past goes, I did a heavy amount of moderate drinking for a good 20 years. And I think into 5 years sober now on that too. So completely sober head, been getting into things like ecstatic dance and getting with different communities and stuff, and not full on in, but exploring different alternatives and yoga and stuff like that, and really working on myself spiritually and more integration of what I've learned over the years with psychedelics. Excuse the audio, I have a train coming by, but the reason I'm making this video is a day after the fact. Things are a little more coherent in some ways, but they also start to slip away in other ways. And this is kind of for me, as well as, if I've experienced it, there's not a ton of information out there. And to be honest, I feel like a lot of people are parroting on their experiences, especially with traditional DMT. Not as much with 5-MeO, because if you actually have engaged with this substance, A, it's really hard to articulate, and B, there's not that many visuals, so it's really hard to put into words a way to romanticize it, because, it's different for everyone, but it's not the same as saying, I saw machine elves and all parroting off of each other, which, as someone who's done NMDMT, that's kind of a cop-out. That's kind of either you're parroting or, people do see entities. I'm not going to get too far into that, but as far as Bufo, the toad, yeah, it's a little more profound and it's a little harder to articulate. But this first time around, it did bring me to a place, like I said, it was probably a stepping stone, but basically I had a veil of darkness. I was trying to analyze everything. I mean, my ego, that's another way of, knowing that maybe I wasn't really letting my guard down enough for it to happen. if I was trying to see what was going on and decipher things. And what you're really supposed to do is surrender, let go, and let it just do its thing without any kind of expectations or anything of that nature. But I will say the first time, I was dissolved enough that when I came back and I came to, things were very clouded, and for a second I had to catch my breath and remember what it was like to be a human, you know, on this planet. You kind of go to a different place, and when you come back, you're kind of piecemealed together and trying to figure things out. So yeah, I'll put up a couple of clips and you guys can kind of get a taste for what was going on. But basically, you're kind of like sworn in and making a prayer slash proposal.
I am love, I am health, I am peace. I deserve to be loved.
Basically asking the medicine with your intention, what you expect from it. And, you know, I held it, and my intention was not exactly do your worst, but I trust you and show me what I need to see, or, you know, help me however you feel I need to be helped, very modestly. And so when I went under, it was pure bliss. And I was getting bombarded with light, which was polar opposite of the first time. It was a veil of darkness. This time I was getting bombarded by light and messages and things that, you know, I wanted to catch something here or there. So yeah, I'm getting bombarded with all this. The only thing I can say is information, because the visuals are so fast and so out of our realm that you can't really put them into words. And I think they're also between subconscious and just in general representations of how 5D or a higher dimension gets translated into 3D, which is why I think some visuals tend to be kind of like almost a plane, like one-dimensional when you're doing certain psychedelics. But so all this, and you know what I did? I ended up letting go and just being showered in it. And a lot of it was feeling and just feeling, you know, love. It was just pure love, creativity, everything positive. And every once in a while I'd start getting some very uncomfortable feelings. And what had ended up happening was every time I'd start coming to a little bit, this happened like 3 solid times, I'd start coming to, and I don't even know if I opened my eyes or not. It was just me starting to slip back into reality. And then I'd realize as I was coming to that I had felt an entire lifetime. And it wasn't my life that I was feeling now. It was parallel or someone else's or ancestral or a past life or something of that nature. But basically the first wave hit me, and time does not exist in that realm. And so it literally felt like a lifetime. And I remember coming to and being like, what time is it? I just felt like a lifetime.
Really? Are you kidding?
I'm still in.
I'm still in.
As I was starting to come to, I couldn't tell if, you know, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes had gone by, and I couldn't tell now that I was coming to relative to time, knowing that time is different in there. I still thought it was hours and hours and hours, and I had an obligation to pick up my kids later there, and I felt like days or hours went by, completely disoriented. And yeah, like rather than seeing life flash before my eyes, I felt every emotion of an entire lifetime, and that built up, and I was ready to like purge a little bit, but then I fell back. And this happened 3 times, and I think it was 2 lives that were realistically past lives probably, and past trauma, which I've carried over into each life. And so this 3rd time, it was my life, and still nothing specific, but I could specifically correlate these gut-wrenching feelings with events that had happened. So rather than seeing my life flash before my eyes, I felt every emotion, which in turn I'd probably suppressed out of survival. I won't get too deep into my personal, but I've had some traumatic relationships and childhood things that have taught me to suppress emotion because emotion is vulnerability, and therefore you're subjected to hurt because that's a tool that can be used against you. That was at least my thought process. After everything that I had experienced with this, I realized that healthy outlets are important. So I'll show you a few clips, but basically when I wasn't completely there, but enough to know that I was back, even though I was kind of in between. And that's when everything I felt from 3 lives had to come out. These feelings erupted in a big way, and the best I could do was, I think I started, I don't know where I started, but a lot of it was primal screaming, going into laughter. That's another thing that I'd suppressed because if I was happy, that would cause problems with my previous relationship. You know, it went into hysteric crying and undulated back into all 3 of those back and forth. And I got a lot of that out, but there was still that gut-wrenching feeling, and I'd felt this before with combo and some other substances, so there's something that needed to be worked out. And I got, like I said, a very large amount of emotion out, and it was great because it was a very desolate area. You couldn't hear a thing. The first thing when I pulled up to this property was I opened my car door and there was silence. So that could have attributed to the fact that when this happened, I was able to really let go. Not that I would have cared, to be honest, because it wasn't in my control. It was a purge. It was like, you know, you have to vomit. And basically I was vomiting out emotion. And so that kind of went back and forth. And like I said, the gut feeling was still there. And that's when the shaman went to get an egg. And that's, he told me later, we talked about it. This evolved in all sorts of places in the world, like Europe. It was practiced probably in Asia and definitely Mexico, where, you know, I don't know if you've heard of a Mexican grandmother saying, you know, use the huevito. And apparently the porosity of an eggshell can take in negative energy or energy that needs to be expelled. So they're doing the huevo and kind of traveling up. It's almost like a stud finder, and I feel things being pulled from me, and it's great. And they get up to my throat, and you know, I've had a lot of congestion and stuff of that nature, and maybe it's more deep and symbolic in other ways. And you know, your throat chakras, of course, is associated with expressing yourself and getting things out and having your word and letting out creativity and stuff of that nature. But as it travels up, my pitch keeps, you know, I start belting these notes, and it gets higher and higher and higher as I get up there. And they said, keep going, keep going, keep going. It was just like feeling like you had to squeeze something out of you, and it was coming out, and you were just working with it and trying to get it out. And so then, I don't know if it was before or after that, but I start channeling this hymn. And when I say channeling, that sounds completely out of my thought process and realm. You know, I always thought stuff like that, channeling anything, was just like, really? I mean, I thought it was maybe subconscious trauma, and like, yeah, you're compelled, almost like a tic or Tourette's. Not that I'll downplay that, but that it was more of a impulse based on your subconscious that you could almost control. But no, I had to force these notes out, and I was kind of undulating up the scale. And I later started composing it on the piano when I look back at footage, because it was this beautiful thing that I had to get out, but it almost makes me think it sounded very archaic, and makes me think it was maybe from one of my past lives or something significant, or maybe a chant or a prayer or something that had something to do with my past life, I'd be really interested in knowing if those notes are correlated with any kind of spiritual practice or anything. But that was just something to me that was very interesting. So that's kind of like the physical timeline of how things played out. And eventually, you know, I kind of caught myself, time was all over the place. And this process maybe totaled 20 minutes, but I felt like it was eternity, and not in a bad way. None of it was bad. None of the purging was bad. It all felt great. But I did have to play out all of those emotions. So that means that I felt everything that I suppressed. And, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't misery. It was beautiful, and it was letting go of it. And so through acting on it, I was able to let go. And even if I get a little emotional now, it's because that barricade has been destroyed, and I even, you know, broke into tears and laughter on the drive home, which was an hour. And I'm making this video now, to inform you guys, because I was curious. I want other people to experience other people's experiences, engage for themselves, whether it's for them, but also I'm trying to kind of piecemeal things, but I'm very patiently trying to. In the whole process, I was very patient and just like not trying to overanalyze stuff. Like I said, this was yesterday. I haven't even really tried to analyze what I saw or the information passed to me. And part of me thinks that I'm not really supposed to. It's just kind of a gift. And that little shove was like, here you go. I think after doing some work myself, I was ready to be in that position, because everyone reacts completely different. I've done a previous documentary, that one I participated in too, and I've seen all sorts of different. Everyone's different. Everyone has something different they get from it, which is why when you're being presented this and you're setting your intention, my advice would be trust it and trust yourself a little bit. And a lot of people might think, I want to be able to manifest whatever I want or this or that. And as human beings, we have to know a lot is out of our hands, and to instill some trust. And that's part of being able to let go enough for the medicine to actually work. So I think having a very broad intention of just give me what I need, basically what you think I need. And based on my experience, I think there's an intelligence to this. I don't know if it opens up something that has access or gives you access to more than you know about yourself, or gives another being access to give you what you need. I will say that whatever it was, when I came home that night emotionally, I felt amazing. And I will say I woke up this morning and I've been a little foggy and out of it, but between shooting this documentary in the heat all day and the emotional trauma I got to re-experience and let go of, that's huge. I mean, so of course I'm a little foggy and exhausted today, but I wanted to start speaking to this before anything kind of slipped away. But I honestly feel like I haven't been able to process everything either. So I'm kind of in a weird position, because part of me feels like it doesn't need to be processed. And a lot of what it showed me with the time standing still and this and that is that it doesn't matter when things happen right now. Like, I'm patient, it's cool, it'll come. So, you know, I might make an update video as this progresses, because based on the first time, I could have done a video on it. It was interesting, but it was egotistical, psychoanalytic I did it, for myself personally, and that was about the extent of it. But I do think it started opening a bridge or a gap or a path to start going deeper and deeper and deeper. And this stuff is non-addictive, and in fact, it's the opposite. And I can definitely say that based on yesterday, because they were passing it around a little, to take a little bit more. I felt like I got literally 3 lifetimes worth, and that's fine. And I think I need a lot of time to just kind of let things settle and see what comes to me. I definitely feel more calm, less stressed, and I do feel like when things happen, it's a lot easier for me to emotionally process them and let go of those emotions as they happen. And even looking at the footage, it's crazy because I have to edit this and I'm looking at the footage, and every time I look at it, I have to feel those feelings again. It sparks it like a frequency, hearing what I'm letting out. And that's okay too. So yeah, my advice for anyone who found this video because they're looking into doing it, definitely, I have two schools of thoughts. A, you can possibly get your ass kicked and then learn from that and start integrating things. And I can honestly say that I've been cleansing my body for a long time now, eating right, practicing to the best of my ability, you know, walking the walk. And even with all that work, you get hit with some surprises. So in preparation, be ready for anything. A lot of the participants, sometimes letting out emotion can look really traumatic. So I don't know, everyone's different. I don't know if they actually had to feel things like I felt things, or if it's just letting out. But if you do venture down this path and you have any shadow work or anything that's unresolved, you might get faced with that. Like, be ready to face whatever scares the shit out of you. And for me, like I said, it wasn't scary, but there was a lot of uncomfortable, but I'm used to that kind of thing. That's what I mean about being on a path and starting to walk the walk, is I've confronted problems to the best of my ability, but whatever was dealt with there was beyond my perception. It was so deep, and like I said, even from lifetimes ago, that I've been carrying. And even psychologically, you were raised, say, by a narcissistic mother or father or sibling, chances are you're going to carry that into your next relationship. And chances are that relationship will bear children, which will keep passing that along. And that's very real, and there's nothing magical or spiritual about that. That is, you know, Freudian, like, psychological fact. And so if we don't resolve certain issues in our life and acknowledge them, they can be carried very easily and passed to people that we love. And that can go for abuse, all sorts of things. But that's something that I took away from this. As far as like past life hypnosis and stuff, and I've always been pretty curious about it, but part of me thinks, like, if you're being hypnotized, then you may be digging into your subconscious and just making up stuff about, you know, when people say they were Cleopatra or this or that. But it has sparked my interest because, like I said, I felt these things, but I have no recollection of time, place, who I was, what was going on. I just know that I bared every feeling of an entire lifetime 3 times. And that was pretty amazing. There were points where I was laughing and crying, so I really only remember like the feeling of purging the negative ones. But I think even through the laughter and stuff, it was just, I probably felt everything, and the laughter and wasn't as important as the primal screaming and crying. So yeah, be ready for that too. And if you're a dude with a lot of masculine energy, you're gonna have to let go of that. Everyone's different, like I said, not everyone reacts that way. The first time, from afar, I just laid there, looked completely still, had no reactions. You know, I had like a wow moment coming back and was appreciative to be a human being again, you know, in encompassing this body and this plane. And yeah, the second time, I was a lot more grateful, not only to be back, because I was, you know, ego kicked back in. I had to worry about who I was and when to pick up my kids, fine. But I was very grateful to be able to express those emotions and have help in purging those. This is definitely just touching on everything as a whole, so maybe I'll make a follow-up video. I can't even begin to explain the visuals and messages that I saw. A lot of it was, they say, downloads, information. It's past visuals. It's like so much coming at you that it's like feelings, visual, you know, a little bit of visuals, feelings, and representations, and you're just getting bombarded. And I don't think you're Your subconscious can maybe later sort that, but I don't think your conscious can sort through how much information can get thrown at you at one time, like your head would explode. So I think those things will come to me. There's also an aspect of different pathways being made with your neurons and stuff. You guys probably know that from psilocybin and microdosing and stuff like that. But basically, you're getting ripped to shreds up there. And now neuroplasticity is coming back into effect as you're healing and like reestablishing different neuropathways and stuff, and in a healthier way, I would think. And it might be like when I did combo, things progressively kind of changed as time went on. And I feel like as impactful as this was, yes, it'll take, I'm just kind of physically and mentally recuperating on the second day from it. But yeah, the integration, basically subconsciously everything that was thrown at me will start being sorted and things will come to me. And if you guys are interested, let me know in the comments. And I know I've put a lot of general stuff out there, so I'll be really animate about responding to comments. You guys can probably find my email if you want to reach out, because this is something very profound and very potent and serious. So I want to help educate anyone who's curious, because I've been in that position going down the rabbit hole. So it's like 50%, yeah, I can help you, and 50% like there is no expectation, because God only knows. Each individual is different, and what you take away from it is that. So I don't know if I touched on the aspect that DMT in general, your body naturally makes it. I think I've said that, but there's an influx of it in birth and in death. And some people theorize that it's kind of this chemical activation that opens up a bridge, maybe through your pineal gland or whatever, your soul, oneness, the other dimensions. It opens up this bridge. I mean, I have a theory myself that as human beings, we have a veil that only allowed us to see what we see because we're playing a game here, and that would defeat the purpose if you had access to everything, because then it's like a video game. If you have all the cheat codes, then what's the point of playing the game? You'll just win, right? So my theory is we come here to learn, to experience, and we need that veil. We need to forget everything to be able to do that, which is why we don't have access to all this knowledge. And when we get a little taste of it like this, it can be quite overwhelming. But the DMT aspect is, yeah, you have this influx, birth and death, and you're essentially triggering a near-death experience. You know, your heart rate might go up a little bit, but for the most part, your body's fine, especially if you have a good facilitator. The worst that could happen is if you puke and purged, which I've never even seen anyone do. But, you know, if your facilitator didn't have you fast a little bit, or you weren't feeling good that day, there is a chance, just like passing out with a substance, you could choke on your own. So it's important to have a facilitator, not only for those physical elements, but I can say my friend Stephanie and the other shaman who I'm very well familiar with, but he wants to remain anonymous, they were great at helping me. You know, I was asking for help. Can you assist me in letting go and purging all this crap? And they were right there, and it was amazing. And I wouldn't go to anyone else for that. So that is my word to the wise for that. Do your research, know who you're dealing with. Don't just do it in someone's apartment or something. Setting is very important with this powerful substance. That's most of it. This video got pretty long, and I know it was pretty vague in general. Like I said, communicate with me down in the comments, and I'll fill you in even more. And as things progress, and if I have a much different view as time progresses, I'll make a follow-up video for this. But as of now, while things were fresh in my mind, I just wanted to get them out in a video, share my experience as a documentary. I'm not solely documentary, but a lot of my work and passion is documentary, artistic projects like this. And it was really amazing for me to be able to set up my camera and document myself in not perhaps, but the most vulnerable state I've ever been in. So I think the video clips are probably pretty moving because I've seen them a few times just going through footage and I still am moved. And like I said, I feel those emotions, and it was very raw and very authentic. And I think that was the other part, being completely true and raw and naked. And the other thing about setting is you're with these other people who may or may not be experiencing the intensity you are. But it's great to have that reassurance and comfort from community and people around you, and maybe you witnessed them and what happened to them, and oh shit, now I feel you. I had sorry for all the tangents, but one of the participants he had to be, probably late 60s, self-proclaimed psychonaut. We sounded like twins, it was me last time. And he did go under and nothing happened. He just felt bliss, it was all good. And he basically kind of talked it up like, he's so above there that he can just do that. And that's how I felt too. And when I came out of it and he was comforting me, I put my hand on his shoulder and I said, I think it's about time I give you the dad talk, because now I was at that level, and that's ego speaking. And I think I even said that, but I wanted to prepare him for eventually, when you're ready, that reckoning is coming where you will have perhaps a hard time. And I don't mean hard, but it wasn't like I was dealing with trauma, but the experience itself was not traumatic. Everything was very positive. It was beautiful. I mean, all of it, especially when I first went under and everything was just bliss. I mean, I got to see that, and a lot of people say there's a veil and just darkness and a void with a 5-MeO. And for me, it was the exact opposite the second time. The first time, yes. The second time, it was just bombardment with light and love and everything good. So I'll wrap it up. Like I said, I'm more than happy to respond to questions. My email is dmlippold, LIPPOLD, @gmail.com. So you guys hit me up if you want to talk, because I think it's very important that if you go down this route, that you have some support, and I'm here to support you guys. And this isn't me posting a video to talk myself up or anything. It's to, just like I do with gardening, I want to share experiences. Also, in the comments, let me know if you want more videos, not just like this, but health in general, mental health, physical health. I do a lot of stuff behind the scenes, considering making another channel. So let me know if you'd like to see these here or elsewhere, if that's something I should be pursuing a little more. Part of the reason why I haven't made as many videos this year is because I've been working on myself more and working through some difficult situations, which I also think arose out of kind of a reflection of working through some of my own stuff. My thing is, I think bad things that happen in life happen for a reason, and it's usually a reflection of stuff you have to sort through yourself. I'm back, and happy to make more gardening videos, and also happy to share personal experiences like this. So. All right, guys, so it's been 3 weeks since I did the Bufo, and I just wanted to touch some points on integration and how things have gone to maybe help you guys on your journeys. But I'll say, like, the first 2 days after, I felt ecstatic, like everything was amazing. It was only after going back into the workforce, hitting the ground running, that A, my health quickly declined. I'll go more into that later. And B, it's really hard to integrate back into the societal norms, especially given that it's so contrasting. What I do both on this channel and on my own time is completely bipolar compared to my 9-to-5. I work in a very corporate atmosphere, a lot of egotistical characters. I try to stay authentic in my persona, although I carry myself professionally, but the gist is I'm a videographer for professional development in a school district. So I'm around PD and, curriculum, and so it's a very odd place for me to be. But I think it's a unique place to be given my personality type, where I come from, how I view the world. I think the contrasts are interesting, and I keep the job because, of course, it pays the bills, it's consistent, and it pertains to what I like, which is art and video. I'll say that, I had like a day and a half to have some time to integrate, and it wasn't nearly enough for what I went through. The first time around, I could say like, yeah, fine, whatever. But this time, I think I really needed some time. But I think at the same time, the way things panned out, seeing that stark contrast actually helped me see more in a different way. And I'll go into more of this, but there have been a lot of synchronicities. And I've come to find, I've always heard about synchronicities, and I literally have been seeing the numbers and all that, 1111, that's fine. I always knew about that. But I never knew or understood the way that synchronicity speaks to you. And some of it's synchronicity, other things is like, maybe I'm just more intuitive now and having a shift in perspective and noticing things I hadn't noticed. But there have been a lot of, I'll go more into the work stuff and how initially that seemed really negative. But the way these synchronicities unfold, it's almost like I'm being guided and I'm paying attention more to how this is being spoken. So I'm not hearing any voices or anything like that. It's noticing things that start to correlate together when you follow the breadcrumbs. More intuition, and also like little glimpses of very minor manifestations that kind of compile and put you on a path. I'll give you a couple for instances. My car, I've been running, I run things, I'm frugal by nature, a little bit stoic, and so I've had my car for over 200,000 miles now, and I'll hang on to it until the thing dies, and I've luckily been able to maintain a lot of it myself. I've had a lot of anxiety with it kind of acting up lately, and like the first week going back to work, I keep my cool and everything, but it's not sounding great, and I go to take my kids to school before I get to work. Mornings are like rushing around, it's really crazy. Of course it's dead, it won't turn, and so it turns out to be the battery. But everything was really simple because I remembered that I had a jumper, and I just calmly got out, jumped my car, put it in the trunk for if I get stuck dropping my kids off, go to AutoZone or wherever, some mechanic place. They look at my battery and it's under warranty for 1 more month. And so I just swap out the battery nonchalant and get back to work. And so that was pretty cool. And then as far as like noticing stuff, like it's still driving a little weird. And I was just at this right angle to see where a drip was coming from. And so I opened the trunk and calmly see that one of the hoses, the clamp somehow wasn't connected 100%. And so I was leaking Freon. And I just, on my lunch break, was able to calmly, just by my hand, pop it in, voila. Like, that's what I mean. It's almost like someone going like that. And this is another really corny instance, but maybe it's the fact that my intuition is perceiving these kind of things now. But it's at the laundromat with my daughter. She was making a joke about the little quarter machines, and there were some terrible prizes or whatever as usual, but there were these bouncy balls, and it reminded me of when I was a kid, and I was like thinking to myself, like, damn, I'd really like that little bouncy ball. And I probably said it out loud because she was like, and I was like, I don't have quarters, she humored it too. And then she goes over, in my mind I was like, yeah, I'd really like to play with one of those things right now. And she goes to this other machine, checks for quarters, there's 2 quarters, puts the 50 cents in there and hands it to me. And we start like acting like kids and bouncing the ball around the washateria while we're waiting for laundry. Although it's not that compelling, it's pretty interesting to see that little like glimpse of manifestation, thought, and it comes to you. type thing, as simple as that is. And then the other things are more like shift in perspective and synchronicities aligning and stuff. It's like, you know, the battery, my car's out of a battery, but it's barely still under warranty. And if that didn't happen, it wouldn't have been under warranty. So like a bad situation, like, of course that's stressful, trying to take my kids to school and my car's not starting. In the past, I probably would have gotten really worked up. I just calmly did what I had to do. And it was just like seamless. And it's almost like a slow down type thing. So now I'll get back into the work thing and that integration, because like I said, that stark contrast, you know, I really just wanted to kind of soak in what happened, kind of analyze it a little more. And then another part of me was just like, no, keep going. But the hitting the ground running in a stressful environment with, you know, a lot of egotistical stuff and people not treating each other very well, was hard in itself. And I've been trying to pace myself a little more and slow down. But the health thing is a little backstory. I've been having issues with mold toxicity and chemical sensitivity, which are closely correlated for a long time now. I'm saying like a decade. And I've been in work environments where the HVAC is terrible. I found out in my home, I like had to by myself redo all the HVAC because that's expensive. But I found mold in my home, and I found that I had an accommodations for my old office, got transferred to this new office, kind of kept my mouth shut even though I still had symptoms, and come to find before any of this even happened that my office had been flooded several times and there was a bad mold problem and the HVAC hadn't been properly maintained. I, being sick of being gaslit, took it upon myself to just remediate it myself, like up to my elbows in the HVAC, scrubbing the hell out of the thing. And I'd say I brought it like 85% there. The carpets had been saturated, so there's mold still in the carpets. And even though I talked to, this is what I mean about egos, I talked to the head of maintenance and he just gaslit me and said like, oh no, we took care of that and there's literally mold growing on the carpets. So fine, set that aside. But coming back, day one of being back at work, just terrible sinuses, everything. I just felt ill. Like it was my symptoms, but on steroids. And so I just kind of carried on and been blaming work and stuff. And another synchronicity was we just got a new employee handbook. I'd been back researching all this stuff, and like every time the cleaning crew comes through, the symptoms get terrible. And so, you know, my thing is when you're using chemicals, there shouldn't be fumes unless you're mixing, and if you're using proper dilutions. And I've already tried to go through the system and take care of that. And what happened was the cleaning crew came back. Basically, the head of maintenance, instead of doing his job, sicked the cleaning crew on me and claimed harassment because I was taking photographic evidence of the situation to bring it forth, because that's what you do, that's what holds up in court. And I know I'm getting into a lot of it, but it all pertains. I left it alone and I just sucked it up and took the beating basically. And so I've been miserable for years. As far as the synchronicities go, we just got a new employee handbook. I thumbed down to the chemical section, and there's explicit detail about how to handle pesticides, and that the building, everyone in the building needs 48 hours notice before they use a pesticide, and that only EPA certified people can either train or handle these pesticides. Well, come to find out, one of the products that's been triggering me is classified as a pesticide, specifically Quat 256. So I went ahead and just impulsively called a number and reported that. And it's not throwing anyone under the bus or anything, it's something no one knew about, but you are spraying pesticides and mixing pesticides with bleach and creating fumes every 2 hours while I'm trying to work. As this meanders through, what I come to find is, yes, this doesn't affect everyone. I'm sensitive to it. And so when I say synchronicities are showing me things, for me to come back and hit it that hard, all of a sudden things started breadcrumbing, and it's not like I'm not getting a voice in my head, but synchronicities and things on like presented to me, articles, whatever, are just coming really quick here and there. I come across the concept of a fungal ball in your sinuses. And my sinuses are like killing me at this time. And it's almost like it got so bad I was able to pinpoint what's going on. And it feels like almost an obstruction there. And so I look into this and look into remediation and stuff, and they talk about, because I've been detoxing like crazy since this mold thing, but mostly my lungs, my blood, if you guys are familiar, mycotoxins and stuff like that. So the nature of mold, if it's in your body, is that it creates kind of a barrier. So it can, like, you know, sinuses are perfect. It snuggles up in there, everything's fine. Basically, it uses anything that you have, be it, you know, that's why you'll hawk up something and see like blood chunks or whatever. It'll use biology, it'll use heavy metals and all this stuff to kind of chelate and like make a barrier to protect itself so that it can keep doing what it's doing, you know, bacteria or whatever wants to survive. And so I was trying a nasal rinse, which is just saline, and I felt the exact same symptoms of the chemicals. So now all these little things come together and I figure, okay, I have mold manifesting in my sinuses from all these years of being around mold, and maybe even before then, but it's just manifested like crazy now. The fact that I'm super sensitive to mold, my body is overloaded with this, and mold is constantly, especially when you detox and eat healthy, putting off mycotoxins. Anytime you're near it, your bucket's full, it's too much, you're always in fight or flight. Your immune system's basically, it's like an autoimmune disease at that point because it's on overdrive and any little thing sets it off. The chemicals, you know, chemicals remediate, you know, granted there shouldn't be chemical fumes where I work, but fine. I'm coming to find out this has all been presented to me to acknowledge this internal problem. And the fact that I did a nasal rinse and it resembled the exact same symptoms means that my mycotoxins are going crazy because anything stirring this up. So great, I finally have a jumping off point. And, you know, say I do have a fungal ball, I'm considering surgery if what I do with this protocol doesn't work. But basically, I'm taking saline solution, I'm putting oregano oil in there and apple cider vinegar and flushing the hell out of my sinuses. And I've only been doing it for 2 days now, twice a day, 3 times the first day, just to really start kickstarting things. And I'm noticing a huge improvement. And I think I have quite a ways to go. I'd say at least a week of hardcore and then keeping up with it. And if I don't see a significant improvement, I'll take care of it surgically, which I'm trying to avoid if all possible. But basically, these things are breaking up the colonies and all the biofilms and stuff like that, so it can finally free things up and I can get things clear. But I've been battling this for 10 years now. And in the past 3 weeks, everything has fallen in my lap and shown me, hey, this. And it's weird because, like I said, I'm not hearing voices or anything, but I'm getting visuals and stuff of little, like, here's what you do, and like being pointed in the right directions with like articles and things falling right into my lap. And so that's pretty amazing. And so I will say right now, I feel like absolute crap talking to you, but I see the other side. And if anything, that experience had taught me patience and that you have to go through discomfort to get out to a better outcome. And it's all kind of tied together. And I am feeling improvements in some ways, but the nature of remediating mold from your body, you need a binder to basically, you piss it off and disrupt it and break it up. It puts off defense mycotoxins, which are in essence toxic. So I'm basically exposing myself to mold toxicity, but I'm trying to take things to flush it out as soon as I can. And that's why I'm hitting it so hard. And then therefore, thereon, I'll do it consistently. But this initial uncomfortable phase is the first, but lots less decongestion. But every time I do these rinses, it's hell. I feel like I have the flu for like 2 hours later until my body evens out. I let it rest for a little bit and then hit it again, because if they're trying to protect themselves with biofilms, it's kind of like antibiotics. If you just take some of your dose and leave it alone, it'll remanifest. So you need to be consistent. So it's interesting to see in the 3 weeks, A, the synchronicities and stuff, and B, how things have slowly unveiled themselves through a little bit of patience. As far as the experience myself, I've kind of detached myself from overanalyzing exactly what was going on. I will say it's been hard for me to edit this, and another synchronicity that I just noticed is that for whatever reason, I haven't been able to go deep and edit this. So at the time, it's been 3 weeks. By the time I edit it, I'm planning on doing it today, which is why I did this follow-up. But the fact that I couldn't get through, because things kept coming up and stuff, I'm convinced is so that I could do this follow-up video, because it is quite different and a lot happened. So the gist of it was, initially going back to work, I was just like the stark difference. I'm like, no, I can't do this. Like, this is hell, basically. What am I putting myself through? And then through a shift of perspective, I find that the very thing I was blaming, my job, which every job has its things, fine, but it was showing me something about myself. And so spiritually, they say that when you have struggles, it's usually projection of something within. And so usually I'd correlate that with emotional things, but it turns out this was a little more physical. And so that's fine, I guess, but it's interesting. It's brought a lot of other things to my attention, like the fact that I'm not impulsive, but I'm more intuitive now, and I stop and try to notice things a little more. And also, like, there's some wants that have come into since the experience. Like, I don't want to necessarily, when I think I want to integrate what I learned more, it's not, before I was sitting and trying to psychoanalyze it. Now I'm like, okay, I want, the gist of that means that I need to find that in a sober way through meditation. So I want to get more in tune with meditation now. And also, as far as synchronicities, I do a lot of video stuff. I got asked to do a video for an ecstatic dance improv band, which is awesome. And ironically, when I first approached them, I was like, hey, can I come film? I had my camera and I'm like, I need, some inspiration. And they're like, well, the nature of ecstatic dance is that there are no onlookers, no judgments, so no, you can't film, sorry. And then full circle, like a year later, this guy's asking me to film only the band, not the dance itself, but it's still interesting. But anyway, I go to this ecstatic dance, I film a little, dance a little, hang out with this friend that I met a few times, but we weren't that close, but we get to talking a little bit, and he invites me to a Hindu temple. And while I do grasp little things of Buddhism and different religions and stuff, I don't really hang on to one. It makes me research a little more, and it's weird that I'm being guided into this Hinduism because by default, a lot of things that I practice adhere to their ways. And then out of curiosity, I kind of dig deeper and I'm like, what is the difference between Buddhism and Hinduism? And then that alignment is more closely related to what I believe in too. So that's the next thing. So that's interesting to me too. I know this went on a lot of tangents, but it, a lot of stuff to absorb and a lot of physical things happening and a lot of mental things happening. And while I thought that I'd be doing a follow-up video more about my experience and how that affected me, it seems more like a shift in perspective. And it doesn't mean I'm this completely different person. It just means that it was just unexpected, like I'm being pointed in these directions and more observant in a way that I didn't think possible, which is pretty interesting to me. I think that's the gist of it. If anything else comes to, I'll probably do like a follow-up short or something like that. And I'm optimistic. And like I said, I'm not feeling great right now, given that I'm remediating mold out of my sinuses, but I feel like I'm on the right path, and that's awesome. And so I want to thank you guys if you've tuned in this long. Hopefully you've grabbed something from it, and I think everyone's experience is going to be different. I think we all have our own path. I don't even think necessarily, even if you're watching this video and interested in Bufo, I don't even think it's necessarily for everyone, but you'll know if it is, and then therefore after you might know if it isn't. This video isn't made to like encourage, or it's more here to guide you if you've almost already made up your mind and you're doing it and you're wondering what to expect. And I will say maybe expect the unexpected, because that's exactly what happened to me. Whatever you can prep yourself or compare yourself to in your head may have nothing to do with what you will experience. I do feel optimistic. I love the fact that my mentality has shifted, and so I have already been on a path where if bad things happen, I know that there's usually something good to come out of it. And before I was just like, say my kids, I'd been put through hell and all this trauma through years, but I have these beautiful kids now, but I didn't put it together in the same way. Now I have a little more trust, and I have a little more intuitive perception as to not how is this going to benefit me, but trust in the present situation. And just, I feel like I'm being guided to see outcomes and to see paths, which is awesome. And hopefully I can maintain that, which is why I want to take up meditation a little more and yoga, and kind of keep this momentum going. So again, thanks for watching. I will respond to comments pretty much daily. So if you guys have any questions or anything, feel free to comment, or you can email me at dmlippold, LIPPOLD@gmail.com, and I'll be more than happy to respond to questions or even just talk more about this. So this is one of my longer videos, so I appreciate you watching, but there is a lot to unpack here, and I wanted to be transparent and thorough, and I think we've achieved that. So again, thanks for watching. Till next time.